You guys are my whole dedicated day, so.
Nice.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Committee of the Whole work session today, Tuesday, March 19th. And as we start our meeting, we have minutes from our February 20th Committee of the Whole work session. And then we're going to spend about 20 minutes talking about project labor agreements. And today we have members of the Laborers International Union of North America, Local 1097, and they're going to share information with us. I guess we'll start out with Patrick and talk a little bit about project labor agreements. Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. Wonderful to see you all again. Again, my name is Patrick O'Connell. I'm with the Laborers Union. And I have with me my colleague, Jack Carlson. He's from the Painters, and he's also the president of the Duluth Building Trades. So I'll let him do all of his titles, so I don't want to mess any of them up. So, but I'll turn it over to Jack Carlson.
All right, thank you, Commissioners, Chair. My name is Jack Carlson. I'm the president of the Duluth Building and Construction Trades Council. I'm also the business rep for the Painters Union, Local 106 out of Duluth. So, we work hand in hand with Patrick and 17 other business agents in our area. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to get up and I wanted to introduce myself. I know Patrick and Derek came up a month ago maybe, and they kind of gave you the packet. So I wanted to answer any questions that you guys had. I wanted to go through a few other things. I got some business cards I'll leave here that has my contact information. But just to start things off, did everybody get a chance to kind of look through the PLA packet?
Yep.
Do you guys have any questions on the PLA packet or any of the contents therein? Okay.
I'm wondering, maybe for folks who are listening online, to give a little overview of kind of what project labor agreements are and the benefits.
Absolutely. So a project labor agreement is an agreement between the end user, the labor union, and the county. So when there's a project that's being bid, they would enter into an agreement, and it's a harmonious clause. It basically keeps the project running at full steam. It usually utilizes highly skilled labor, and it usually keeps the project on track and under budget. That's basics of a project labor agreement. It's a tool that everybody can use that wants to have a good working relationship with the trades. Again, utilizing apprenticeship programs, the high-skilled workforce. It's pretty simple when it comes down to the relationships that we have.
Kind of sets a base for even playing field, so that everyone's on the same page as what's being delivered versus what's expected.
Absolutely. It's all about having good players in the market, and everybody gets treated equally. There's no chance that you guys are going to get hurt because of a bad player in the market. It kind of keeps that out of the equation. So.
Thank you. So we have some projects starting here, obviously. And so does that mean that we need to hire licensed plumbers and electricians and all that? Or Joe Blow on the side is available and we can go with him?
So there is nothing that says that you can't hire an unlicensed or a non-union contractor. That's okay. You guys can do that, but they would have to participate with our local CBAs. So if the plumbers and the pipe fitters have an agreement that says you need to contribute to the fringe funds, which is their health care, some retirement stuff, that contractor would then have to work with that craft.
I'm just thinking we have so many projects, and so few the labor force here that it's going to be, kind of a upset in terms of juggling who's available to contract.
Well, and that's the other part of this is the relationship that we could build together. You could have a contractor call me And I am directly in contact with hundreds of contractors through 17 different local unions. So if there was a project that was just down the street and they're having problems with workforce, they make a call to me. I present this problem at our building trades meeting, and I reach out to the local workforce like Patrick and a lot of the other gentlemen that we work with.
Whoever it's applicable with.
Yep.
You know, if you have a carpenter issue, you would reach out to the carpenters.
Yep.
Plumber issue, plumber, pipe fitter, et cetera, et
Yep.
cetera. So,
And then I can also recruit and get contractors to work on those projects as well.
Thank you. Commissioner Hawkins?
Yeah, so in your packet here, you have information about the counties that have these and the cities. Can you speak to what level of project triggers the project labor agreement? Because I think we are not talking about our toilets breaking in the bathroom and
Right.
have that. Yeah, so
Right.
can you speak to how this works?
Absolutely. So since there is no ordinance currently, that would be something that we could discuss. I know a lot of the thresholds, it depends. St. Louis County is $150,000 or more. I believe Lake is very similar. The city of Duluth is 175. Carleton County is 175. That's kind of been the average. You get closer to the range, like some of the cities Aurora, Evlith, it's a $1 project labor agreement cost. If there's a project with the HRA that needs to have something handled, they'll usually have a project labor agreement or work with one of our signatory contractors. But that's the relationships that we have with those small towns. Now, the relationship that we have here is young, it's new, we're wanting to work with you guys, so that threshold can be set. That's nothing that's set in stone currently, so.
And I'm also wondering, and I didn't get a chance to ask Jason this, but the relationship between if we have passed this at the county level for county project, how does that relate to the HRA, the legalities? Does it automatically apply to a different government?
Nope, so it wouldn't apply with the city of Grand Marais or any of the cities that are located here in the county. This agreement would be just with the county itself right now. Now, I would love to sit with the HRA and the city of Grand Marais and get something similar in place, but this doesn't overreach into their jurisdiction.
I just want to clarify
Yep.
that.
Yep,
just county funded projects.
exactly. Yep,
And we already do project labor agreements through the highway department with our road construction
Yep.
there. Anytime we have federal or state money, I talked to Robbie about that we already do that at that level.
Yep.
So it's not new to us.
yep. And there's actually quite a few of those projects that are gonna be going on and will be going on coming up in the future, so.
Yeah, so I was interested to hear you talk about apprenticeships.
Mhm.
So one of the things that we talk about a lot is that any local contractors that are in business currently, they've got projects going 2-3 years out.
Mhm.
And so there's been a lot of talk about how do we build a bigger pipeline for young people to get into the trades. And I'm just wondering, would a relationship with you give us some additional tools for getting young people engaged?
Absolutely,
So how
absolutely.
does that look?
Well, we're gonna be coming up to the school to have a career fair. We are feet on the street when it comes to that stuff. We do the Construct Tomorrow event. Now that's kind of more Duluth local. We do reach out to a lot of the other communities and schools that we would like to bring down, but for up here, busing kids down to Duluth for a career fair is kind of tough at times. But that's why we come up here. So, we go to Silver Bay and sit with the individuals that would like to hear from us down there. We'll do the same thing up here. And it's a pathway, and it's, again, all about building relationships. The more relationships we have, the more avenues and paths that we can go down to bring individuals into the trades.
Other questions?
There are a few other things that I'd like to touch on here, and this is some funding stuff. So, with the Inflation Reduction Act, there's money out there for projects. And through a lot of the fundings, there's a couple of requirements. Prevailing wage requirements, which we all want prevailing wage for all the members in the communities. You know, it's a fair, workable wage that puts food on the tables for their families, but it also utilizes apprenticeship programs. So that's another part of this is a project labor agreement. You could check off the prevailing wage, and you could check off the utilization of apprenticeship programs with the prevailing wage. Now, or excuse me, with the apprenticeship programs. There are a few other items through the Inflation Reduction Act that you would have to make sure that the projects would check off. A lot of it's the green energy, renewable energies, stuff of that nature. But the main triggers on those would be the prevailing wage and the apprenticeship utilization. So there are different avenues for different funding streams too for projects as well. So that's kind of a little perk to it all. I mean, funding is always a hard thing to find for smaller projects and communities that don't have a giant kitty to pull from, so.
And everyone likes free money.
Yeah, yep, absolutely. But again, I mean, it's about the relationships and it's about a work in progress. You know, we don't want to have something that would affect you guys in a negative light. That's not what we're about. If we can't succeed because you can't succeed and our membership can't succeed, then there's no point of going down that. Now, having the relationships with you guys, that is all about succeeding and being open and on the table, and that's what we want. Everybody needs to succeed. That's the biggest thing.
Commissioner Miles.
Go ahead. No, you go.
So with the inflation reduction money, you
Mhm.
say, who applies for that?
You would have to apply for that, or the end user, whoever you're working with, would apply for that. And I do have a few, it's carbon capture projects, energy efficient buildings, green buildings. You know, if you're updating windows, which I know you guys recently did or worked on the building here, anything of that renewable resource or energy savings, that's one of the checklists. Alternative vehicle refueling. So you got your charge stations with IBEW. They do a lot of that stuff. That's just another trigger. It's just stuff like that. Yep.
Commissioner Miles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, so I was gonna say some of our two biggest challenges are funding
Mhm.
and then labor. So I see this as a really good lever
Yeah.
to help us overcome those challenges.
Mhm.
It's exciting to think about.
Right.
Move forward
Yep.
and having that.
Yep.
having that tool.
Well, and, you know, besides the Inflation Reduction Act funding, the recruitment portion of this, the stuff that we do, the feet on the streets, the boots to the ground. I mean, we have organizers in every one of those 17 affiliated crafts that are out on the streets daily. And we got a lot of them that come up this way too. So we're already trying to work those angles and at least get as many people into the trades as we can.
I know initially when we met about a month ago, it was such a relief to know about the pools of labor that we
Mhm.
had that were accessible, because that's one of our concerns is how are we going to get all of this
Right.
work done? And I just see it's a real
Mhm.
win-win.
Yep, having referral halls or hiring
Yep.
halls with the, different crafts, whichever one they utilize.
Yep.
Definitely huge yet, pool of skilled labor, which is, and then the nice thing about like with the apprenticeships, right? If we maybe don't have enough labor, if it's a super busy time or something, prime time for local people, like in this, just graduating school, summer work, things of that nature, trying to get in the trades. With the apprenticeships, earn while you learn. You earn money on the job while you're learning, a skill and a craft or a trade. And then all of us have training centers too that, when you're a member, you can go to utilize. And, they all have different rules. Labor specifically, we train them and put you up in a hotel and give you a little bit of money to go down and take some training and learn a new skill. So, you can be kind of well-versed in a lot of different things. So, definitely important, I think, with, again, hitting the marks that you guys were concerned about.
Other questions? Commissioner
You may have asked this before, and maybe not fair to ask, but trying to look at from all perspectives, why wouldn't we want to do this? And you probably
Right.
will say, I can't think of a reason.
Well, and, you took the words right out of my mouth.
That's what I said last time. I didn't think of a new thing between now and then,
Right.
so.
I gotta try.
I mean, there really isn't a reason, other than your own personal beliefs that would get in the way of this. I mean, everybody at the end of the day, they want to have a project that's built right. They want to have a project that's going to last. They want to have as much local, trained, highly skilled workforce employed as possible. So, I mean, we're not the cure-all by no means, but we do have a lot of those resources available to get to you guys where you got to get to. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I have a question. If a local contractor, building contractor, were to win a bid
Mhm.
and find out partway through the project that he was coming up, crew members, a couple of his crew members, something happened and had to leave the crew, could that contractor tap into your pool?
absolutely. So if there's a local contractor that's not signatory and he wins a bid, he can still work with the local halls that if he's a carpenter, he can work with the carpenters. Again, going into this, he would have to be aware, that he is gonna have to work with the carpenters in the fringe office. They would either provide him with manpower, or if he brings his members or his workers, employees, that there would be no change. He would still be able to utilize them as well. So if he did lose a few individuals for whatever reason, that he could just make a phone call, and then that the Carpenters Hall would be able to provide him with manpower. So,
Well, I believe that every year I fill out the prevailing wage
mhm.
survey thing.
Yep.
And in Cook County for contractors, or for carpenters, the prevailing wage is higher than average for unions. I mean, a union worker, contract, or carpenter makes far less than a carpenter in Cook County.
A union carpenter makes less than a carpenter. Oh, interesting.
So it's just how it is.
There's a
Yeah.
couple of things to that. Now, the prevailing wages, a lot of that is just the bare minimum. That's just an average of what certain contractors are paying their employees. Like for myself, I represent the painters, so I know a lot of the painters' prevailing wage work. And we set, out of 87 counties in Minnesota, the painters had 86 of those counties set. Now, a lot of our contractors, they pay our employees or our members more than what their base rate is. And their base rate is what sets the prevailing wage. So
And that does not take into account benefits, correct?
that's just the wage portion of it, yep, the base rate, yep.
So I mean, to the extent that there's a disparity, I mean, it could reflect the
Mhm.
lack of benefits.
Yep. Yep.
Commissioners?
So this is to James. So the reason we're discussing this today is that in the future, we will make an agreement with the union? Is that the reason
Well,
we're
that's
talking about?
what the board will need to decide. Yeah.
Yeah. And we've never done this before, to my knowledge. Have we ever been
Not for
involved?
a capital, for road projects we do. It's
Yeah,
Right.
for road.
But not for
Yeah.
construction.
Yep.
Construction.
Yep.
Yeah, and so, yeah, the goal, well, and it's not just one union, right? It's
No.
the whole agreement just to, again,
Through the building trades.
give
Yep.
kind of that understanding for everyone involved in what we expect and what they can expect, and just try to keep that labor as
Mhm.
smooth and constant as possible, and progress, get our projects done.
Mhm.
That's a big part of it, getting things done on time.
we've never been this far with our
Right,
projects before.
right.
So that's why I'm trying to remember, did we ever talk about this before?
You know, our old adage is, you know, we're always on time and under budget. And that's something that it's not old, because it's something that we strive for every day. But, you know, the work stoppages too, the stuff, if you really dive into the bones of that agreement, there's a lot of negotiations that are going on right now. And if an individual company or an individual union goes on strike, there's a harmonious clause in this project labor agreement that keeps that project working. There's no work stoppages. So that's a big thing. I mean, with a lot of the strikes and job actions going on. Now, that's not something that we're gonna do a lot. It's very, very few times that would ever happen. But there's no work stoppages, so,
It's a protection.
Yeah. yep.
As I said it when I met with you guys last time, it's a relatively cheap insurance policy, and
Yeah.
by cheap I mean it's kind of free
Yeah.
in a way. You know, you just agree to a pre-hire set of rules, like Jack said, between the owner, which would be you guys at the county, whichever contractor wins the award, and then the building trades. So it just, like you said, just protection in the wages, right? There's guaranteed wages that have to be paid. Then the work stoppages, the work shortages, as you had mentioned. We have talented pools of members from all the different crafts that are ready to go to work. So
Yep.
it's kind of just definitely a helper in making sure these projects stay on time, under budget, at least on budget, right? That's what we're always shooting for. Under, if we can help it, which there are actually studies out there. I'm not sure if they're in the packet or not, but independent studies on PLAs showing that they have proven time and time again that they are on time and either on budget or under budget.
Mhm.
So it's through an independent source. So
Not us.
not us, And the other thing I had mentioned too, and Jack had mentioned it a little bit as well, is this isn't a union only thing.
Mhm.
Any contractor of any sort can bid on these projects. It doesn't exclude anyone, and it doesn't give anyone an advantage.
Yep.
It just levels the playing field between maybe some fly-by-night operation coming in that pays their guys $15 an hour, cuts all the corners in the world. This just makes a collective, everyone's got to play by the same rules.
Yep.
So it's just kind of a protection in that way, and that's kind of how it helps the local workforce get employed.
Yep.
Local, I said last time, being a relative term for up here, so local as best we can.
Yep.
You don't have someone coming from out of state, bringing all their guys, and then leaving once the
Yeah.
project's done.
Yep, that's the biggest thing, and you want to keep, like I said, as many people in this region employed, and the out-of-state people, if they do win a project, they win a project, but the people that we work with, if they are from out of state, their number one call is to us at the Labor Temple or to his office or the other prospective offices, and the first thing they say is, who do you got? Who can we bring in? Who can we put on the project up there? So,
Well, Jack and Patrick, we really appreciate you coming and
Absolutely.
responding to our questions, and we look forward to continuing our questioning and conversation with you, and we'll be looking at this in the very near future.
absolutely,
Excellent.
absolutely.
All right, well, thank you very much for your, I'm sorry.
One final suggestion is to make t-shirts that say that, on time and under budget.
I'll forward it
Right.
along.
Right?
All right.
Two quick closing comments. Now, St. Louis County, not your guys' county,
Yeah.
but we have had 21 project labor agreements to date this year, since the beginning of the year. It's a big thing. It's always productive down that way. We like to, structure everything off of that and go as far as we can. The next thing is, please call me with any questions. My phone rings 24 hours a day. So I'm always available to answer a phone call, and I'd love to come up and speak with you again, or, if you guys do bring this forward, I can bring in another gentleman who's specific on PLA studies across the nation. So there's a lot of information at our fingertips here, so please utilize us.
Well, we'll do that. Thank you very much for coming.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a call at 2 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Perfect. I look forward to that. Just not after you leave the bar, though. I get enough of those ones.
All right, thank you very much,
Thanks so much for
Commissioners.
All right,
taking the
thank you,
opportunity
everyone.
with us. Appreciate that. Now we'll move on to item C, our update on county public information activities. And I see that Todd Ford is waiting in the wings to come and visit with us.
Morning, everybody.
Good morning. So glad you could be with us this morning.
You can just follow along. All righty. So last year when I met with you, there was a bunch of who I am, introductory kind of stuff. I think we can bypass that by now. I'm into my second year. Let me just get fired up here.
For the public.
Oh, all right. Well,
The
there you
public
go.
knows who he is.
Bear with me just a sec.
Sure.
Well, since he's not on camera, they still won't know. who
Oh,
he
yeah,
is.
touche.
Right, incognito. Okay, well, I am the Public Information Coordinator. It's a split position between Cook County and North Shore Health. I've been doing this for 2 years now. Prior to that, I was up at Grand Portage as their marketing guy, and so on into other places like Las Vegas and Chicago, and this is where I ended up. And I'm really grateful to be here.
Yes.
So I wanted to bypass some of that, the details there, and get right into the meat and potatoes of what we're doing. And this is sort of a recap of what communications have taken place in 2023. So starting with the articles, county connections, that's a big part of it. I oversee the communications committee, and we meet bi-weekly. We get together through teams and determine what's going to come up as the next articles. And we try to stay close to a month out so that we don't get caught without anything. But we determine the content, the author, and the schedule, and we base that on priority, relevance, season, and author availability. And so far, that's worked quite good. We've really worked it around the system so the different departments get some say-so. So I coordinate with the author. It's typically a department head, but sometimes they delegate it to somebody within their department. And they initiate a draft, which I flow into our branded format and make edit recommendations. Sometimes they're this many, sometimes they're this many. And I route that to the author, their department leader, if there is one above them, and also James and Jana, so that there's plenty of eyes on it before it gets approved. Once that's approved, I route that for distribution. In this case, these articles are just at the Cook County News Herald, so I work with Brian for that. We typically need to have it to him every Tuesday. Sometimes I'm earlier than that. Sometimes I have to beg for favors, and we squeak it in a little bit later.
That's my article.
But once I've submitted it to the paper, I also immediately share it with stakeholders internally, the commissioners, communications committee, MAT, and not too long ago we widened the net just to make it county employees, because and that was a good decision. I've gotten a lot of thanks from different county employees for all the keeping them in the loop on what's being said. And if they see it ahead of time before it actually hits the newspaper, if anybody has any questions, they're fairly well versed in it. Let's see. So that paper, the digital issue comes out on Friday. The hard copy comes out on Saturday. But on that Friday, just so that we don't get in front of the newspaper. That's the date that we put it out on the website and on our social media channels, and and then distribute to other local media in case they're interested in picking up on it. But we let them know that this is appearing in this date's Cook County News Herald in case they have any issues with duplication. One example is like North Shore Journal has politely asked me, don't bother sending it to us because if it's already in the News Herald, we're not going to print it. So I always archive these so that we have a full set of everything at our fingertips. I keep that on Communications Central, which is on SharePoint, so everybody can get at them. Let's see. I also create a spreadsheet, which I'll share with you. Oh, she's showing it right now. That way we can see year to year how many we did and what we did and so forth and compare. In 2023, we did 48 County Connections articles, which is just a little shy of the 52 you would get if there was one every week. We did miss a couple of weeks for different reasons. Because that is impossible to read, I brought some printouts for you. If you want to just take one and pass those around. In case you actually want to get into the weeds, the information is there. Next major thing is media and news releases. The process is similar to the articles. The initial drafts are submitted to me by department leaders. I brand it in our format. I include our boilerplate, which we've established. If there's a third-party partner that we're dealing with, I try to co-brand it with their logos if it's appropriate. But I edit that. I share clean and redline versions with the author and team that they can make sure that they actually like the edits I'm recommending. And once we have an approved version, that gets distributed to media. And I've learned to always give them multiple versions to choose from because not everybody wants the same thing. So they get a Word version, a PDF version, and a text version. So there's no roadblocks for them to be able to not grab it and run with it. I maintain two different media contact lists. One local is this long, and one regional is significantly longer. And that one in particular is constantly evolving. Just about every time I put out a media release that goes regional down into Duluth, Twin Cities, and what have you. There's always on that list 3 or 4 kickbacks saying they're not here anymore. But then other people are reaching out and saying, could you please add me to your media list? So that's ever evolving. On a similar basis, I share that with the same group of stakeholders and post it to a website. But those also go on to Facebook and Instagram and get archived on Teams, so it's easy for everybody to find. And likewise, I manage a spreadsheet for that. Interestingly enough, in 2023, we distributed 107 media and news releases, which happens to be one short of double what we did in 1922. So that's a growing effort. And on a similar basis, there's the detailed spreadsheet, which here's hard copies for you. Feel free to dig into that if you have any questions about any of those media or news releases. Yeah, not much bigger than what you're seeing there. Need your readers.
But we can zoom in on our.
This is true. Just an interesting point, the types of media releases that seem to have generated the most interest and coverage is in the edit suite, telling the video editor what I wanted and watching what he did. So I'm a bit of a hack, but I'm serviceable and I get the content and I can put it together and I've got a working program on my computer So it's nice to be able to do that without any external cost when we can do that. In 2023, I worked with Leah on an employee handbook policy review, which was meant to be a time saver, so that's one thing they didn't have to do face-to-face with everybody during onboarding. I also worked with Andrea Orist on stigmatizing imagery and language in media. She did a packet, I did a video version of that. And that's actually, she's about on the cusp of going out to meet with the individual media representatives to walk them through that.
Is that, you said you're not a professional photographer, or is you have training there? Is that hobby or?
Same thing,
Okay.
hobbyist, yeah.
You do a great job.
Yeah, yeah.
Really great.
But I can
I got no problem.
retouch and optimize and size and, all those types of things. So it's serviceable in what our needs are. On a related note, this is 2024, but it's relevant. I have started working on a new recruitment video for the Sheriff's Department, which thankfully you guys approved. The acceptance of donated B-roll from a couple of local videographers who we're really grateful for, because this time of year is just kind of gray and no leaves on the trees and so forth. It isn't really the best time of year for me to be out shooting beauty shots. And admittedly, they're really wonderful at what they do, and we have two of them that contributed and are making great use of both. And actually, there's a third one that will be coming through on your next meeting for approval, which is not beauty shots, but adds some flavor, because part of how difficult it is for the Sheriff's Department to find new talent. They offer many of the similar same things that all the other sheriff's departments do, but anything that we can show besides the beauty and the nature and the wilderness and all that are wonderful reasons to come here, what gives it a little bit more flavor, and that's showing that we have a singing, guitar-playing sheriff. Makes him like, hey, that's a guy I could work for. So you'll see that in there coming as well. That was actually footage that came from KBJR down in Duluth. They were happy to contribute it. Next is the website. So I regularly update that with our articles, our media news releases. We have a pop-up banner that we can customize, and public notices, the types that come from Brady and so forth. On request, I'll do text edits, upload and replace documents for various departments. The biggest users are Land Services, Auditor Treasurer, and the Highway Department, but most of the departments have made use of those needs. Seasonally, I'll go in and update and replace the beauty shots that you see at the top of the page when you come to the home page. Something that's reasonably new are URL redirects. Thanks to Sarah Waddle at the Community Center, she brought it to our attention. And basically, when you want to create a link to include in a piece from our website, the link's this long, and it's gobbledygook. And if you're putting it into an article or a media release, nobody wants to go in and try to reproduce that. They can't click on it because they're looking at it in the newspaper. So there's always that option of doing a third-party shortened URL like bit.ly or something like that, but when you do that, it's their brand, it's not Cook County. So what a URL redirect is a short version that gets you there on a link, and it still incorporates the Cook County brand. So thanks to Rowan and his staff, they've figured out how I can do that. And so when somebody needs that, they come to me, I make the conversion, I give it to them to put in their piece, and I also keep a running tab of what we have so we don't have to go down that path again. and we can reuse them. Website analytics, again, Rowan and his team gave me access to that in June of 2023, so I've been tracking it ever since. And I do report that to communications and MAT on a monthly basis. If you'll go to the next page. So essentially that's what the snapshot of a 1-month report looks like, which can be a little daunting to, what am I looking at? But I do report this to our stakeholders. To make it more viewer-friendly, I usually translate much of that data into more of a spreadsheet that makes it easier to compare month over month. And that's on the next page. So there's the last 6 months of website analytics at a glance. And it breaks it down into the top categories: the total number of users, new users, how long they spend on the site by seconds, what are people viewing most frequently. The top 3 are the homepage, the jail roster, and property records. Page views is how many people have actually looked at it during that period. User engagement is how much they're engaging with it. And clicks are things that they're actually clicking through to dig deeper. The sessions by organic would mean, let's say they just want to find Cook County MN, they'll type that into a browser, and it's usually there's some paid ads that will show up first, and we're the first thing underneath that. So that's what organic is. Direct is when they actually know the URL and they just type it in and come there directly. Referral would be if they're arriving there by a link. One thing you'll notice that from June through December, there's a slight decline month over month over month. And it's a little early right now for me to be able to say exactly what the cause of that is. It may be seasonality. There may be some other factors, but as we start to, over time, be able to compare year over year, we can get some better answers on that.
Fewer inmates, maybe.
Well, and that's the interesting part, is that jail roster is the one exception to the rule. It's the one thing that didn't decrease over time. I also keep up to date our visual identity manual. Most of that work was done in 2022, but we keep fine-tuning it as we move forward. Once it's finalized, I'll be incorporating the non-stigmatizing packet and some social media policy updates. Next is social media. That's all about keeping a nice consistent brand for Facebook and Instagram. I make a point of trying to use visually compelling large images and minimal text on that portion and keep the majority of the information to the caption area. We co-brand when necessary. I try to include a website link and relevant hashtags so that it's easy to find and easy to go translate from there to our website when people want to. The difference between Facebook and Instagram is that Facebook allows us to put in fairly lengthy copy and links. Instagram does not allow live links, and they also have a word limit. So for example, PHHS, when they do an article, it's usually fairly lengthy and includes a lot of links. So when you incorporate that into Instagram, you kind of have to cut it off about halfway and tell people for the complete article, visit our website or our Facebook post that's available by way of Linktree, which is they can just go click in there to find the link.
Are you able to, get it so that there's a hook,
Enough of a hook, yeah.
Cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta go read.
Clickbait?
Yeah.
Yeah, I try not to do that. And I monitor our social media on a daily basis and respond where appropriate, but in most cases, other than liking, there's not a lot of response necessary unless somebody has an inquiry that needs answers. If somebody's just expressing an opinion, we allow them to express their opinion, unless it's something that's totally inappropriate, and then they'll consult with James and or Molly and make sure that we may need to hide or delete something if it is inappropriate. Fortunately, that doesn't happen a lot. In 2023, we did 432 Facebook posts, but that compares with 307 in 2022. That averages up to 368. So we did grow that. Similar, Instagram, we did 443 posts in 2023 versus an average of 342 the year before. On top of, those are unique posts also, so on top of that, we also share quite a few other posts that are originated from PHHS or the Sheriff's Department. Next are social media analytics. And for some reason, I have a gap there in March. I must have been slacking that month, but we did get the rest of the year. And this is broken down through followers, which is the people following our page, following, which is who we're following on social media, post reach and engagement, which are two big ones, new page followers, how many we added each month, how many reactions we've had. Reactions would be like, love, anger, that type of thing, care. Shares are important because that's a way to reach a much broader audience than we normally would. Clicks are good. That tells us that they're clicking on our links. Photo views show us how many photos they've seen, and unfollows. We've had no unfollows, so we're doing good there. Nothing so controversial that we're making people angry and walking away.
How is it determined who to follow?
Well, and you'll see that that's over time that actually decreases a little bit. I'm not sure where they all came from before I got here, but as I did get here and started looking at some of the people we were following, not all of them were what I would call appropriate. They didn't necessarily align with the values of Cook County, Minnesota. Might be controversial or highly opinionated or just irrelevant material. So I've backed it down somewhat so that we don't get all of that in our feed. Wrap it up. All right. So, just like show business. All right. Instagram has fewer things to track, and YouTube is also tracked on there. We're growing both very organically. The next are a group of charts that show at a glance the different categories. You'll notice there's a peak in August on some of these, and that happened to be the time when we were looking for the search and rescue was looking for the lost canoeist, or the lost pilot, I should say. All right, I don't want to get you bogged down in the observations, but they're there in the packet. If you have questions on any of those, please reach out to me and I'd be happy to discuss those in further depth. The next page are social media analytics. I did the last 4 months. You'll see pretty significant growth in most of the categories. New page followers dropped a little bit, but that's probably because we hooked them in the year before. Following dropped a little bit, but that's, as I mentioned, I thinned the herd there a little bit. But for the most part, that's pretty good growth. Lastly, just wanted to give you, it's not in this piece, but a quick sneak peek at some new wrinkles for 2024. MIS has started directing all the emails that come in through our website to me, so I review them, let them know we've received them, and then redirect them to the right parties. so that people get responded to. James and I are just initiating a new media tracking sheet. That's one of the things you're not seeing too much in this report is all of the department leaders who've had the freedom to go out and interview with, say, WTIP or whoever else over the years to talk about relevant things. We want to continue with that, but we want to track it. So this is a updatable spreadsheet that'll be housed where they can find it and always put that in there. And we've also started asking that they run it by James before they just dive in to make sure that there's no conflicts or anything that they need to be aware of. LinkedIn. It existed before I got here, but it was pretty much left untouched. So I'm working with HR now to make that a little more robust for those out-of-area candidates who might be scoping us out to see if we're legit. Any questions?
Commissioner Mills?
Yeah, sure. The YouTube views seems outrageous.
Well, that's cumulative. That's since they started doing YouTube. But,
Oh.
yeah, that's not that many per
Gotcha.
month. That's why you see it continually growing month over month over
Thank you for
month.
clarifying.
Yeah, we're not that viral.
I can't
We're not that
imagine people
interested.
not wanting to watch our committee of the whole or county board meetings.
Where you can't see all the participants or know who's talking. Makes it very interesting.
Stuff by stuff.
Well, thank you for all this great information and not just the summary that we have here today of your work, but what you do from day to day for our community. You do a fantastic job of keeping us informed, and in times of emergency, I don't know what we would do without you. So thank you for your service.
It's my pleasure.
Here, here.
I do have one question.
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner. Are you still half-time with the health up there, or have we taken you away and
It's currently split, 20 hours for Cook County and 20 hours for North Shore Health. So I do similar amount for them, just in different avenues.
Any other questions? Well, thank you so much, Todd. We appreciate your time this morning and again, all of you for us.
Danke schön.
All right. And, you know, it's interesting how items on our agenda flow from one end to the other. We're talking about all these videos that he's creating, and now we're going to have Rowan Watkins come and talk to us about our YouTube video retention policy. So you have a microphone. And you'll be on camera.
Oh, perfect.
Almost.
No, I guess.
Do you want to get that parsley off?
One more over.
Please, yeah.
I could hear you.
I'm fine.
All right. Well, thank you for coming this morning, Ron.
Yeah, thank you for having me. So, as the agenda summary says, I'm here to talk about and get your feedback on a process change in how we manage and store our YouTube videos. And so, kind of for context, I'll talk about what we currently do with our other social media accounts that Todd was mentioning in the website, because we don't, we pay a third party to archive that information for us. And so it's cheaper to do it that way. And so for the website and the 5 social media accounts that we have, everything that is posted gets captured and archived by this third party. And this ensures that we have an accurate record that protects us from being accused of deleting things in a biased or maybe inappropriate way. So if Todd was ever dealing with some of those comments he mentioned, and he never would, of course, but if he responded in a way that we needed to show that either was or wasn't appropriate. Because we don't, and by we I mean MIS, have the credentials and store that information here internally, our social media and website content creators and ministers could delete that. So if that makes sense, Todd could have said something to someone and then deleted it, and we wouldn't have a good way to prove that. And so by having this third party continuously capture everything that we do on there, we have that archive and we can protect ourselves that way. And so that process and this vendor actually came from a recommendation from the county attorney's office for this, to make sure that we do that. And how it relates to YouTube is that through the conversations with the communications committee that Todd mentioned, we talked about the need, and again, the county attorney's office, Molly, made the recommendation that we need to have something like that in place for YouTube videos as well, so we currently don't. Nice thing about YouTube is that you can put as much as you want out there and the storage is free, so unlimited storage, and we've done that. There's never been a need for us to scale that back. We post a video, it stays there forever, and that way if the public ever wants to access it, it's there and they can go get it. Once you start archiving, you're paying for storage. And so that's what leads us to the conversation here today, and the conversations that we've had in the communications committee are really about where do we find the balance between transparency and providing that information that's needed for an appropriate amount of time, and paying for archiving services that maybe we don't really need, and being responsible with that taxpayer money. Please.
So
Commissioner.
the first thing you were talking about is the archiving, right? The Facebook, Instagram, all the social media without YouTube.
Yep.
And then,
So that's in place now.
yep, and that is archiving.
And that is archiving.
Right.
And part of the distinction and why we're having the conversation here about it today is that moving to YouTube, because you're paying for storage and the amount of data, the difference between text and pictures and Facebook and Instagram posts and high definition video of meetings that are pretty lengthy sometimes. And we crank out a little over 100 of them a year, pretty much. And so it's growing without end, unless we put some sort of process. And what that looks like from a cost perspective is that right now, if we were to just say, yep, Page Freezer's the fix, that's what we use, let's apply it to YouTube as well, it would essentially double our Page Freezer cost overnight. So you would go from about $5,000 a year to roughly $10,000 a year. And the kind of the bigger issue that I see with it, and why we really wanted to have this conversation, is because those costs would just grow forever. Every year we add another 100 videos and we're not taking any down.
Yeah.
Right. And so the conversation that we had at the communications committee, and what I wanted to seek the board's feedback on, was a proposal for putting in a policy that would say informational and process videos stay until they're outdated or replaced. And so some examples of this would be like, Mike Keyport has the 911 sign video. Soil and Water has the AIS and aquatic invasive species. Those are process and information type things that should stay on the website and on the page on the YouTube account until they're either no longer accurate or get replaced by something better. So that's those. And then everything else, meetings, we would look at, and again, in recommendation with Attorney Hicken, 18 to 24 months. And so then what we would look to do there would be to draft a policy, YouTube retention policy, that says that is what we do, that's our policy. And then we would work with Page Freezer and Todd and the content managers to stick to that policy. And so then from a YouTube specific standpoint, if there was ever a need for somebody to pull up an old county commissioner meeting because somebody said something and we really need to see that, for sure within 18 to 24 months we'd have it. Once you go beyond that, our policy would say we're no longer paying using county tax dollars to retain it. And so if you had an issue with something that you wanted to view and see, what we're proposing and want your feedback on is 18 to 24 months long enough and appropriate.
Commissioner Hawkins. Commissioner Johnson, excuse me.
Actually, just a couple months ago, I looked up something from 2017 because I knew it was out there and somebody said, oh no, that's not what was said. And I said, yes, it did, and I showed it. So that kind of makes me nervous that it didn't get recorded, it wasn't a minute meeting.
Ooh, okay.
And
That was
so
a point
it was an
I,
informational meeting.
okay.
Mm.
And that, so I wonder, I don't know, I would get kind of nervous about deleting actual information.
Sure. And that's, I mean, that part of the conversation came up. I mean, we wondered whether it was even required or not. And because if we don't have to pay for it, then we'll just leave it on YouTube forever and you know, but the fact is that the county attorney said that while the minutes are the official record, because we provide this, we do need to keep an archive of it. And so we get to pay to have our YouTube videos recorded and archived by a third party. And so now the question is how long should we keep them? And the longer we keep them, the more data we keep, the higher the cost.
And I get it, it's just, really glad we still have that one.
Yeah.
Was it informational, what, here, a committee of the whole, or a board meeting?
It was an evening meeting presenting financial information.
Okay.
I guess I don't understand why we can't keep it on YouTube.
You can.
Oh,
But if you retain it on YouTube, the way that the service works is they just crawl the website. And so they crawl the page in every instance. And so whatever's on YouTube is what they're going to archive. They're not going to filter it out for us.
because what you're saying is there's a way to edit the comments on YouTube, that's the issue? Or, like, I don't understand why we can't just keep doing what we're doing with YouTube. Like, why can't we just go on forever?
So let's say, to use Commissioner's example, somebody said something was said. She says, no, it wasn't. Let's go pull up the video, and, well, that video's been deleted.
Wait, but why? Why would it have been deleted?
Because we're paying to store it.
Well,
Right.
because.
Not on YouTube, though.
Right, but whoever has access, so again, our content creators,
Gotcha.
Todd,
Okay,
somebody,
okay.
could delete it if they wanted to.
Gotcha,
Or
gotcha.
could be told to delete it. And when you pay a third party to archive it for you,
It's,
it's just locked in, and all
Yeah.
you can't edit it, you can't delete it, all you can do is ask for their copy.
So how many people do we have that have YouTube authority?
Let's see, every person that's doing what Jana is now, that initiates the meetings. So we're talking,
Half dozen or so?
yeah,
Yeah.
5, 6 people.
Because that's the alternative, right, is to have a more restrictive administrative
Ooh,
rule over the YouTube channel.
that would be a question for Attorney Hicken. The way I understand it is that the way that we use these meetings and the way that we record these meetings lends her to believe we need to have archived copies of these meetings.
Question I have is, what, if you perhaps know this, what do other counties do? What kinds of other policies? I have not researched what other counties are currently doing.
I haven't either. I know Page Freezer is pretty common. I don't know about YouTube and
Okay.
if other counties are doing something similar. I would assume that they're also trying to split and cap their costs in some ways if they're using Page Freezer to archive it. I wonder if other counties maybe just aren't also. But I haven't looked for a lot of other
That's
on
something
YouTube
maybe when
videos.
we go to the leadership summit next week, we can ask some counties what they're currently doing.
I can ask tomorrow night, I'll be with 9 different counties
Yeah.
tonight too, so we can
Yeah.
get kind of an idea between all of us going to meetings.
Yeah, that might be a
Sure.
good way just to see in general what's being done. You had a question, Commissioner?
Is there a way to get a transcript or to get of YouTube of the verbs, I mean, what's being said during a YouTube, a
and-
transcript of the meetings?
And that was sort of my question too. And again, it kind of circled back to, do we need to pay for an archive of something that we're recording official minutes of? And again, I wish Attorney Hicken was here, because, I mean, essentially the answer was, we still need to have an archive of the actual video, what was shown, what was presented, what was put out into the public.
I find that the minutes that we get of our meetings are very businesslike. There's not a lot of this recording of what the discussion was among anyone. And that's what you get in a YouTube video. It's like, well, he said this and then she said that and then, wait, somebody added this. And that is not in writing anywhere, so the dependency is exclusively on YouTube. What is there, and that's a weakness.
Yeah.
Another alternative maybe is the archival thing, because that's, I can see the legal, like, security and need, right? But I also feel strongly about the transparency and going back to previous meetings. I've done that too, 2016, you know, like, it's very useful and helpful. And I understand we don't want to just have that cost going on forever. So is there a way we can have our, and this will maybe be difficult because of different instances, right? But if there's a way we can have our 18 or 24-month archive, but then also just let YouTube go, like, or just like run forever sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, and so we got into this
Yeah.
exact same scenario in question, and really what it comes down to is the way that the archive company works is because
They just take it.
they just take what's out there.
And it's gone.
Well, it's not gone, it's just that they're looking at it, and if you are trying to protect yourself and insulate yourself from saying that we in any way manipulated what was or wasn't recorded, if we're now reaching out to this company and saying, well, I only want you to archive these ones, but not other ones, that impacts the credibility.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm sorry. What I was saying, and maybe we are saying the same thing, is that we have our archive, right, of 24 months that we have to pay for. We have our YouTube that we don't have to pay for, and we just keep that going as is. But then we always just pay for the 24-month.
Third party.
Third party.
But you're saying they archive everything, right? I mean, whatever's on YouTube, they don't have a way to differentiate, like to set time constraints.
Exactly.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
They continuously just capture what's on your website.
Right, but we can say like, hey, that's been 24 months, don't hold on to that anymore, we don't want to pay for it, right? So they capture for 2 years, they capture for 24 months, and then they'll just always have the past 24 months. We're not paying for these anymore, right? It's just the current past 24 months.
A rolling 24 months.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so, but then everything outside of that we don't want to pay for, we can just keep rolling on YouTube. I think it's legally tricky. But
Yeah,
I'm just
I
trying to
understand what you're
spitball
saying.
numbers.
I'm on your page.
Is YouTube what we're paying for, or the other one?
No, the other, the third party.
So the YouTube is. so
That's
the oth-
free.
Okay.
Yeah, page freezes the pay, YouTube's. Huh, I don't know. Sticky wicket, huh?
Yeah.
Well,
Well, so, the onus would be on us
You know,
to delete what we has been past 24 months. So we're gonna break our YouTube videos into a couple different categories, right? We're gonna say, Todd or somebody's gonna go in this scenario and say, this is informational and process type. Those never get deleted. Everything else is in a different category, and he's gonna look through it and say, okay, it's been over 18 months. So maybe annually, he goes back and looks and says, anything that's over 24 months, I'm gonna delete. And then Page Freezer comes in and does a capture, and they hold on to that.
Yep.
And so,
Gotcha. So they capture whatever is there.
everything.
Whether it's, if it's older than 24 months, so be it, but then we have to pay for it.
Exactly.
Yeah, oh, I see how it works. Okay.
What kind of money are we looking at then?
So based on the size of the YouTube page right now, if they were to capture and archive everything that's on there, we're looking at roughly an additional $5,000 a year to archive everything that's there.
What do we do right now?
We're not archiving it, and we're not deleting anything. It just lives on YouTube.
So it's just 5,000?
We currently pay $5,000 for Cook County website and 5 social media accounts.
And there's an additional 5,000?
If we wanted to add our YouTube channel, it would be an additional 5,000. So we'd be going from 5,000 to 10,000
10,000.
With YouTube?
with YouTube. And that's several years worth of content on the YouTube channel right now. We've never deleted anything. But if we don't, the concern that I have is that if we don't put some sort of process in place to cap that, in another several years, it'll be another $5,000 and then another $5,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Commissioner?
So I have a question. You said 5 or 6 people have access to our YouTube page.
Yep.
Could delete if they want.
Sure.
Is that tracked somehow so we know who did it?
No,
Tracy?
you have a set of credentials for the account, and we share those credentials, so it would be pretty tough for us to see who went in and.
And you don't get any analytics of this is what got added on this date and this is what got deleted on this date or anything like that?
We could see that something was
That
deleted.
something happened.
I would bet, yeah. I would bet that we could see that something was deleted. I don't know that for sure. I've never deleted anything off of a YouTube account.
So that would be a question I would have, because, you know what, I know that our attorney says it's a liability, but I think in the public interest, it is, that would be a risk I'd be willing to consider if we were able to say, no, oh, on this date, it got deleted, somebody did it, well, then we'll prosecute you, or whatever. You violated our policy as an employee. There's other ways we could maybe deal with that kind of problem.
Sure.
But I think in the interest of transparency for the public, I would like to keep it out on YouTube and not archive it.
Okay.
And I guess I'd like to do some research to see what other counties are doing and actually talk to AMC about, because this has got to be a question that many counties are asking at this point in time. And so, do as a larger organization than Cook County, we want to see what others are doing and have a pretty consistent policy. I like consistency.
Our
Personally.
oldest videos are 9 years, and those are just videos of towers. And then we have the oldest commissioner board meeting is from February 23rd of 2016. It's a very low lighted situation, so I don't know if the video does much. Is there a way we can just glean audio off the videos?
And do what with it?
Yeah, so the content is there, but
Compile it into a book.
I think at some point, the
Encyclopedia.
man hours and the process are exceeding what Page Freezer is gonna,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
the time that it would take to do that.
Well, I just appreciate today the question coming up and thinking about this, I just think we need to do some more research. But I'm really glad our communications committee is looking at this and has brought it to our attention. I appreciate that you've done that. And I imagine we're going to have other questions about this as we think about it a little bit more. Administrator?
Yeah, Rowan, what kind of timeline would be ideal for resolving this? Because, I mean, we're talking about legal risks and so on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, again, I mean, I wish Attorney Hicken was here to kind of weigh in on that. I think from our perspective, from MIS perspective, what we would look to do in terms of next step is get some guidance on if we do indeed want to archive a subset of YouTube videos, then we're gonna need a little bit of time to put that process in place where we're gonna, if we're gonna pay for everything, it's as easy as calling Page Freezer and giving them access to the account. So that's pretty quick. But if we're gonna try to cap costs, then there's gonna be a process and a policy that needs to be written and adopted by the board, and then our YouTube content managers, Todd and other folks, will need to categorize them and delete based on adopted policy. So there's some work associated there.
Commissioner Mills.
So, we know what the cost for page freeze is now for YouTube. So if we're willing to pay $5,000 now, we can capture the everything. And then, going forward, we need to make a decision as well as far as policy. That could be an option.
That would be an
buys
option, yeah.
Whatever, buys a little protection in time, but
Mhm.
maybe it's buying a bunch of headaches, I
Or maybe we could find a solution
don't know. Yeah, right.
somewhere. You
Yeah.
could find a solution somewhere.
Yeah. Or once we have conversations. You don't have to do it like right now, but I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, I like the idea of
It's
giving
magic
us some
man,
time.
that's pertinent.
Oh, damn it, I have another question. That was a good one, too.
Well, you know how to get a hold of Rowan, so when that question comes to mind. there you go. All right, well, thank you very much for bringing this topic, and it's really important for us to think about, and, you know, to think about what our community needs are, what our needs are in terms of looking back, and I'm sure we'll look forward to communication with Attorney Hicken on any ideas and recommendations she would have as well. And unfortunately, because of a family emergency, she's not able to be here with us.
Sullivan, there's the adage that the person who takes the minutes, they're writing history, and they say what happened at the meeting, because it could be a month from now or 2 days from the meeting, and you will not really remember all the nuances and every detail. So the person that takes those minutes, they're writing down what happened. And so the YouTube videos, I think, are so, I don't even care if we have a secretary that does, maybe this is the wrong word, that does that, and, you know, they can write their own story of what happened, but the YouTube videos are so important because that's the minutes of the meeting.
Well, and we have to think, there's two different things. Minutes are a summary of what happened at a meeting, and the words are the transcript of what happened at the meeting. And also, we have to remember, if we're talking about transcripts, which we've discussed here, that's not tone of voice. There's a
No.
lot of things in a transcript you don't get.
Right.
So I just think this is going to require more exploration, but I'm really glad you brought it to our attention. I've not thought about this before.
And that's, yeah, we wanted to get the board's input, because I think, you know, at the communications committee, I think there was consensus there that, you know, probably maybe wrongfully, that there's maybe potentially not a lot of interest in communicate, you know, county board meetings that are 3-4 years old, but maybe there is.
Oh, yeah. But I guess I don't know, you might have stats on that.
Well, and Todd might be able to
Yeah.
reflect some of that.
Yeah, we could dig in.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And at this point in time, we have another agenda item with Rowan, but under Minnesota statute 13D.01.
Actually, here's the statute.
Oh, all right. I got it to read. So per this meeting, We may close to receive security briefings and reports, to discuss issues related to security systems, discuss emergency response procedures, and discuss security deficiencies in or recommendations regarding public services, infrastructure, and facilities, if disclosure of the information discussed would pose a danger to public safety or compromise security procedures or responses. Financial issues related to security matters must be discussed openly, and all related financial decisions will be made at an open meeting. Before closing our meeting under this paragraph, the public body, in describing the subject to be discussed, must refer to the facilities, systems, procedures, services, or infrastructure to be considered during our closed meeting. The closed meeting must be tape recorded at the expense of our governing body, the county, and the recording must be preserved for at least 4 years. So we have a timeline for this one. Thank you, Attorney Hicken. So under statute 13D.01, at this time, we're going to close our meeting to address and receive information about facility security issues. Our meeting is closed. Well, thanks to everyone. We've just returned from our closed session related to courthouse security. And the next item on our agenda is Commissioner legal training, but Attorney Hicken has had to leave for a family emergency. So we are going to just note that we have minutes of our standing committees. The Airport Advisory Commission minutes will come next month after they're approved. Budget and Facilities Advisory, Building Committee, and Personnel are attached, and the Highway Advisory did not meet last month, so we don't have those minutes to review. And with that, we shall adjourn. Thank you all very much. Have a great day.